Escape the Pizzaplex had a lot of us confused as to what the actual story was about, like what was the point of everything that we read. And after rereading the book yet again, I think I can finally give us an explanation as to specifically what the GGY aspect of Gregory is. With this book, I was able to scrap together a couple more crucial details about GGY, and I'm finally able to explain this in a way that makes some sense. Now, of course, that's not going to answer every question we have about Gregory and GGY, but I think it does give us enough pieces of the puzzle now that we can put together how GGY is working. And in order to do that, we have to pull from several different pieces of FNAF media, so I apologize if you're tired of hearing about some of them. And we also have to talk about the Vanni mask and how that relates to all this. So let's begin with the Vanni mask. When Cassie puts on the Vanni mask, we're shown that the AR mask essentially shows her a better version of the real world, which seems to be customized to her personally. We see Roxy cutouts, we see different moments of Cassie's life, we see her and Roxy together, and in another video, I discussed the idea that I think Gregory might be on the Vanni network, and so we can assume the mask works the same way it does for Cassie as it would for Gregory, giving Gregory his own customized AR experience. The important difference, though, is that at this point in the story, Gregory is likely infected by the Glitchtrap virus that's taken over the Pizzaplex, whereas Glitchtrap is defeated before Cassie puts on the mask, meaning that Gregory's AR reality is going to be influenced by what Glitchtrap wants him to do. This also means that the Helpi Mimic character is in Gregory's head just like it is in Cassie's. But now, let's think back to the GGY story from Tales from the Pizzaplex. The story focuses on a kid named Tony. Tony has been curious about who GGY is on the arcade scores, and as the story progresses, he investigates more and more into it until he finally starts connecting the dots on how GGY has been involved in the missing therapists as well as the hacking high scores and whatnot. What he doesn't realize is that GGY is one of his friends, Greg, who also happens to be in the group project story that him and his buddies are supposed to write for school. So just quick clarification, Greg is obviously Gregory, and then the other kid in the group's nickname is Boots. Not that it really matters because he's not important to the story, but anyway. So Gregory and Boots leave Tony to write the story, and then they'll make any necessary revisions before the paper is turned in. Tony essentially just writes down all the info he's gathered about GGY. He writes about GGY's arcade scores, writes about how GGY has control over the animatronics, which lines up really nicely with how Escape the Pizzaplex shows Gregory essentially controlling the animatronics when he reprograms them. You can see where this would be a problem for Gregory. He can't have this information getting out and being exposed. So when Tony hands Gregory and Boots a copy of the paper and tells them to go over it, they have any revisions they can make them, you can kind of see where this is going. The morning of, when they're supposed to turn the story in, the boys bring the final story to school, only for Tony to find that it's been completely rewritten by Gregory. And Gregory changed key elements into ideas that greatly take away from any real-life connections to what GGY is actually doing. Essentially, Gregory changes Tony's description of GGY's high arcade game scores to GGY instead being the wizard's most favorite apprentice. Instead of the story being about GGY's control over the animatronics, Gregory changed it to an animatronic supervillain who went into battle with a tentacled monster. The story Gregory writes here works perfectly in a few ways. First, anyone who reads this modified story won't be able to know the truth about GGY that Tony has already figured out. And if Gregory can get Tony to the Pizzaplex, he can kill him off just like the therapist. Anyone that gets too close needs to be discarded. But I do think there's more at play here than just this. What if the supervillain and tentacled monster mentioned in Gregory's version of the story are the actual characters we see under the Pizzaplex? Burntrap and Tangle. See, if GGY is Gregory both under Glitchtrap's virus as well as having the Vanni network in his head, the AR mask would show Gregory these characters in a way that made him think he was just having a crazy, awesome adventure. When in reality, he's actually helping Glitchtrap set up the Burntrap body while he's working with Vanni and using Tangle as a guard to keep anyone else out from coming down here. And obviously luring people to the Pizzaplex to kill. And as far as Princess Quest connects to that, this doesn't actually mean that Princess Quest didn't happen. Rather, Burntrap was being worked on through GGY and Vanni, but by the time Security Breach rolls around, Gregory is no longer under Glitchtrap's control, and so he goes and frees Vanessa, and essentially that Burntrap project is abandoned. Up until this point, this is what the AR mask was showing him, a version of reality that wasn't real, a reality that furthers Glitchtrap's agenda, essentially. And this is why we see Vanni pursuing Gregory throughout the security breach, because they're no longer working together. Glitchtrap sees Gregory as a threat now to his goals. This idea, though, of not knowing what is and isn't real has become such a common theme in FNAF, especially in the tales from the Pizzaplex stories. For example, in the Tiger Rock story, the main character can't even tell when he's actually in the real world versus when he's still in the video game. And so the point of this is that this isn't just Gregory trying to dismiss the truth of what's going on. This is how Gregory actually sees it. So Gregory might actually believe that the story that he's rewritten in his group project is how things actually are, rather than how Tony discovered the truth about GGY. None of that is how Gregory sees it. This also explains why in the Escape the Pizzaplex book, Gregory is so surprised when Monty glitches out and tries to kill Cassie. He's genuinely not aware of how serious this all is. So if Gregory believes in a story that isn't accurate, who is exactly feeding him this story? The next thing I want to talk about is the Mimic 1 program and the Mimic, which kind of go hand in hand. So in the Pizzaplex book with the storyteller tree's story, we learn that Edwin's been keeping an eye on how the animatronics are behaving once the Mimic 1 starts influencing them. The characters become cruel and some more prone to violent behavior, and even Edwin's hated boss, Mr. Burrows, sees the animatronics as being a little larger than life is all, he claimed. The storyteller is amping up the conflict. Every story needs a good conflict. The program is working exactly as it should be. But we all know that the Mimic 1 is a very dangerous program due to how Edwin reacts to it being in the Pizzaplex at all. So yes, the Mimic 1 program is using its storytelling abilities to create these larger-than-life scenarios, but these scenarios are actually dangerous. Even more so when you remember that Glitchtrap is, in a sense, controlling the Mimic with some form of William Afton's persona, which ultimately creates a lethal storytelling environment. So let's think back to Escape the Pizzaplex for a minute. In this book, we learn that Gregory has always liked dark humor and dangerous things as long as Cassie has known him. Now compare that to how the storyteller tree is described in the books. Whatever trait was normal for them began to skew toward the dark side. The shift wasn't dramatic. None of the animatronics had turned homicidal or anything, but the altered dynamic was noticeable. The key words here are whatever trait was normal for them begin to skew toward the dark side. And just like this, in the Escape the Pizzaplex book, Cassie notices how dark Gregory's humor has become these last few nights. What this seems to be implying then is that the Mimic 1, or maybe specifically the Mimic, is feeding Gregory these twisted stories that are becoming even more dark and violent due to a combination of Glitchtrap, the Mimic 1 code, and Gregory's personality already. It's a trio of torture, for lack of a better word. So with that, let's talk about the Mimic, the original Mimic. We learned from the Pizzaplex epilogues that the original Mimic learned to mimic not just other animatronics, but also people. It did this in ways that weren't intended, which caused a chaotic event, which is likely what we'll find out about in Secret of the Mimic or a future game. The next important part, though, is that the teens in the story find out that the Mimic was designed to copy what it observes. To quote from the story, at some point, it must have seen maybe something like a hide-and-seek game or whatever. This hide-and-seek theme comes up multiple times in the Tales from the Pizzaplex series. The one most important that I want to mention quickly is that in the Tiger Rock story, when Kai is trying to get away from Tiger Rock and hiding from him, Tiger Rock finds him and he goes, "Are we playing hide-and-seek? I know how to play. I learned a long time ago." This is such a strange thing to add to the book unless it has significance. So being aware of Tiger Rock's connection to the Mimic, I can't help but think the hide-and-seek concept is very important to the Mimic's character. With that knowledge in mind, what game is Gregory playing with Cassie in Escape the Pizzaplex? The answer to that is hide and seek. Hide and seek with really high stakes. A very dark, violent version of hide and seek. Night 1 is a very scary Freddy prank. Night 2, Monty actually tries to kill Cassie. Night 3, the reagent tries to kill Cassie. Night 4, we get the stakes amped up with a really intense prank, as well as the reagent trying to kill Cassie. And Night 5, literally everything's trying to kill Cassie. So thanks to the Mimic's over-amplified storytelling abilities, woven together with Glitchtrap's murderous intent and Gregory's dark humor, we have one really effed up game of hide and seek, each night becoming something more dark and twisted, but weirdly thrilling as well. It's like the perfect setup or story for Gregory, which in turn means Gregory is the perfect vessel for Glitchtrap. And personally, I don't find it all that surprising that Gregory gets into this situation in the first place. Towards the beginning of the GGY book, Gregory teasingly admonishes Tony, saying, "You think too much, and that thinking too much is actually bad for your health." So Gregory is likely a rash decision maker, and being handed a mask from a creepy rabbit lady would probably sound awesome to him. He's a thrill seeker. So essentially what I'm trying to say here is the GGY persona is a merging of the Mimic, Glitchtrap/Vanni, and the Mimic 1 program, as well as Gregory's tendency to lean towards darker humor. This whole setup is absolutely perfect for him. And that's essentially what I wanted to share about this so far. There's a lot more that we could go into, but I think this is a good starting point. So let me know what you think. If you have questions, I'd love to answer them, and we'll just go from there. Have a wonderful day.